All right, everybody, TCP Nation, you're in for a treat today. I kind of pride myself, and this is in all fairness, I kind of pride myself in getting guys who don't typically do something like this to do it. You're one of those. Mm-hmm. I mean, Blu Dornan has joined the show. I want to hold up this piece of art. If you haven't seen his artwork, Blu, where can they go see your artwork?
Mainly on social media, Instagram, Facebook.
We'll put a little link. We'll put a little link in the show notes so everybody can go check that out. But he brought me a print. I love it. I've got kind of into art, and it hadn't always been a piece of something that I was like really into, you know. Like this guy took this picture, I had it blew up. There's another painting over there, a watercolor painting from a guy. I just thought it was kind of a cowboy scene, just a cowboy sitting in the back of the truck. So it's kind of fun for me now to be like, I'm really appreciating what you do. Anyways, we're already rambling, and let's real quick give everybody the quick. Where's Blu come from? How do you spell blue? Yeah. You know, all these things.
Right.
And then we'll dive into a little bit about life, podcasting, painting. I don't know. I keep saying painting, drawing, whatever art forms or medium you're kind of into and how you got there. So where'd you come from?
Well, born and raised in West Virginia, in the northern panhandle. Lived there most of my life on family farm, and moved to Texas in 2002, I believe. But I've never not known what it was to be an artist. My dad got me into it at a very young age. He was always dabbling in art, and he did it for fun, but he was naturally good at it. And so he would come home from work in the evenings, and we'd lay down on the living room floor and get out a drawing pad, and I'm left-handed and he's right-handed, and we'd lay down on the floor together and we'd draw pictures. And that was when I was real little. So I thought everybody's dads did that. I thought it was completely normal for me.
Yeah.
So I was introduced very early to it, and it just kind of stuck with me. But it always felt really natural. Like I can't picture myself doing anything else. It just makes sense that this is what I do. But he set the foundation for that and for the roping side of it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I don't talk. I'm just now thinking, I really don't talk a lot about all the calf roping I've done in my life, which was a lot. Like Blu and I really got to know each other at rodeos, at calf ropings. We were competing against each other. So that's how I'm really aware of who you are. And then just over time, I'm like, oh man, he's quite the artist too. That's pretty cool. I like that. That's fun to look at.
Sure. Yeah, I think the last time I saw you, we were battling out at Comanche at Ciders there in Andor.
That's right. Oh my goodness, I roped so many calves. See, I'm trying to get Charlie to come on the podcast.
Oh, he'd be great.
I'm bringing him up in every podcast of anybody who knows him. I did an episode with a guy named Scott Hodges. We're like, man, we should get Charlie on here. I've asked him a bunch of times. Anyways, he would be great. He's a great storyteller. Mm-hmm. He's a great personality. He's just like, you can't be around Charlie and not have fun. I mean,
well, those were kind of the funnest ropings, like just for them Tuesday night jackpots and stuff. I loved going to his building and roping. Like, they're just so fun. There was a lot of camaraderie there.
Yeah.
And I do miss that a little bit now I'm thinking about it.
Sure. I miss it. There's a piece of what you said there, camaraderie, in rodeo and in, I almost say just cowboys. Like we we were competing. I had my money up. You had your money up. I was trying to win your money. You're trying to win my money. But I wanted to see you succeed. I wanted to see you make the best. And Charlie wanted everybody. I mean, that guy got more excited about a horse working good, a cowboy having success, somebody tying a calf in 7. Oh, man, he just loved it.
He did. And, rodeo and roping, it's one of the few sports that you see that where your competitors cheer on a person that's going to potentially take your money away. Like, you don't see that in any other sport. Yeah. And that's really cool. I really like that about that.
You bet. It sets a certain respect inside the game for everybody, that if I succeeded only because that person failed or because I wished bad on them, that wasn't a true win.
Right. You want to beat someone on their best day, not their worst day. I mean,
that's the point. Like, everybody roped their best in whatever position you fall. That's where you fell, and it won't be the same every time. We talked about this a little before we turned all the record buttons on, how that mental game around. See, we're talking about it right now like, oh, man, that's all easy and no big deal. But I had a mental problem with that, not the rooting other people on, but when I wasn't actually winning, well, I just thought, well, I suck. I'm never going to be any good if I can't win every time I back in the box. And that really hurt me. It kept me from being as successful as I could have been. What about you?
I feel there's a lot of people that go through that, and especially me. And actually more so for me coming from back from the Northeast. Like, when I high school rodeoed, I was the only guy that roped calves in the whole state. I had to rodeo high school for Pennsylvania with them, and I didn't. I learned how to perfect my craft by watching rodeo videos. The Reed Flake ones and all that, and my dad. But I never had anyone to really learn from. So when I come down here, Stephenville, Texas, Cowboy Capital World,
you jumped right in the wolves.
It's like an actor. If they want to be an actor, they go to Hollywood. You want to rope calves and steers and be the best, you come to Stephenville. Because if you can win here, you can win anywhere in the United States.
Yeah,
it's a hornet's nest. And so coming down, I never had been measured. My talent I could never measure until I come down. And I'm like, okay, I could win back there, but what's it like down here? These are the best of the best. I need to know what I'm made of. And so I always kind of had that mental inferiority just from being an outsider from back east. I didn't know where I measured up. And but it upped after I got down here and got roping. It upped my game tremendously, being around such talented ropers.
Yeah.
But I always fought my head. That was my biggest thing. I wish I could turn back time and about 20 years ago with where I'm at mentally now and rope and see if I would have been more successful.
Yeah. Oh, man, isn't it so unfortunate we can't do that?
But I think it's supposed to work that way.
That's right. I agree with that 100%. It's supposed to work that way. We're all on, well, and you mentioned this. Let's pull on that string a little bit. We're all on a journey. We're living our lives. We don't know what's in the future. We kind of have learned from the past. And when you start comparing or measuring yourself to others or saying this, that, or the other, because there could be a truth. Let's say somebody's super successful at calf roping. Now they're just having a really tough piece of their life, while I didn't particularly succeed at calf roping, but I've found a pretty nice stride in this season of my life. So you got to just kind of live your life.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not just saying coast. I'm saying be after it hard, work hard, get better, do things the best you can. What's been happening? So after COVID and this and that, you mentioned, man, I wouldn't do the podcast 2 years ago because I wasn't ready. What do you mean?
I thought I knew who I was as a person, but during that time, everything kind of got locked down and stuff, and spent a lot of time at home, and I spent a lot of time by myself, and I had a lot. That's when my art I started really working on my art, because I actually had the opportunity to focus on it, because you really couldn't do much else during that time. And so that's kind of where that started, where I really started taking my art seriously. And then it just kind of started spiraling from there. It just kind of like built momentum over time. But I just stayed isolated. And and I know people say isolation is bad, which it is, but I was doing it more of like just a self-reflection type deal.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I went through life and I never really thought about stuff, just everything, like how life works. There's a lot of stuff you don't understand. And I just took that time just to reflect on myself and my faults mainly. We talked about the ego a little bit, how that can be very detrimental to you, and life gets a lot easier whenever you confront that, and just being honest with myself and addressing things I probably should have done earlier in life about myself, and just learning about myself. I don't think a lot of people, everyone's so busy and you don't have time to do that because you're just going to work. And I had this lucky opportunity to be able to just to do that and reflect, and it's been such a positive journey for me so far.
Man, I love that. Yeehaw. Yeehaw. I love how you're finding greatness in what was really crazy, kind of shitty times, shutting everything down. Like, you took it and decided to say, wow, this is an opportunity for me to focus on my art, reflect on myself, address things I have needed to for probably a long time and never have. Have you got an example of any of those things?
The main, it's been a succession of things, but where I really started out, that helped me on my path is nutrition, eating healthy, being awareness, just awareness of everything, like just paying attention. Like, I started paying attention to what I put in my body, and then I learned I probably shouldn't be doing that. So when we talk about transition, the first thing I changed was my diet, and I lost, and my wife went through this with me too, which was good to have support. We was able to support each other with that. But I lost 35 pounds. I didn't know I had 35 pounds to lose. Cut out all my added sugar, cut out, I don't even drink caffeine now.
Yeah.
No, got rid of all my vices. Everything that was controlling me, I got control of it. And man, I feel like I'm 20 years younger now.
How did you do that?
It was a natural thing. Everyone I talk to, they're like, man, I can't do that. I can't cut out sweets. I can't do it. But for me, it was more of understanding myself. It happened within. I didn't force myself to do it. It naturally happened. So, pop, caffeine, I don't drink beer, no alcohol, nothing. People are like, man, that's a boring life. But I feel so good.
Right. I mean, it's only boring if you don't understand how good it feels on the other side.
You don't know how much that weighs you down. Like, I feel so much lighter physically and more clear-headed. You just don't know unless you go through it, though. Yeah. Like, you can imagine what it's like, but like I said, it was a natural progression for me. And
this is what I think people won't get. You just saying, well, it was a natural progression. Because it's hard. I mean, I even don't really understand that well. And I pay attention to my diet. I pay attention to my physical health. I pay attention to my mental health. But it's still hard. I can easily slide back into pizzas and Skittles. I mean, sorry, whatever companies have pizza and Skittles. But those are the best two examples of things that are just not very good for you. And I will end up eating them. And then I'm a bad example for my kids. I'm a bad example for anybody watching. So it's hard for me to reconcile that, well, it just kind of happened naturally, you know. But it can be true, and I think it's partly your personality that makes it that way.
Sure. And it's, you know, it's hard to do. It's hard to find, like, good food to eat. Like, I got to thinking about it, you know, 100 years ago, 90% of what we eat didn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, it's nothing. I guess when you're at home by yourself and you're taking care of animals and you start paying attention to nature and how nature works and cycles and just everything, and everything can exist in a natural form, and you're like, why am I not a part of that process? You know, why am I, like, all these animals have been able to exist for thousands of years doing that, what they do, but me as why do I got to put all this in my body just to function? They don't, and other people don't, but why do I need this? And then I think that's when you get to the core of addressing your inner self. But that was the start of it. That and then with my drawing, like, I've always been interested in gaining knowledge. I just want to know things. I want to learn stuff about stuff that I don't know. And so I would just start listening to podcasts, YouTube videos, lectures, Harvard lectures, anything that I was interested in and ever wondered about, I started listening. And then the more I listened to that, the more I learned about myself. I'm like, oh, a lot of psychology, a lot of physics and all that. And I'm like, oh, that's why I was like that. That's why I had a temper. That's why I was upset about this. And so I just started working on myself.
That's beautiful, Blue. It really is. And, you know, I could be like, man, don't you wish you'd have done that 20 years ago? Well, we already kind of talked about it. Well, at least it's done now. Like, so now let's enjoy it. Like, come on, go forward, everybody. It's always forward. All this pining for, I wish I'd have done this. I wish I'd have done that. It only slows down your speed forward. And I just think that's kind of really counterproductive.
Yeah. A lot of it, I'm a believer in timing, synchronicity, and like I say, you know, you can look back and say, I wish I would have done this soon, but I wouldn't have been ready for it.
Right.
I would, like, the reason it's happening now is because it's supposed to happen now.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit. What do you eat? Like, you said you took out extra sugar, caffeine, pop, these kind of things. What's your favorite meal these days? Like, tell us a little bit about how you think about food.
I'm more fruits and vegetables, more fish, so eggs. I eat bacon. Like, some of the stuff that you think's taboo or what is thought to be taboo, I still like. I just go back. I'm like, man, if the natives ate it, then it's got to be good. I like eating bison. I still eat beef. and we may have an occasional pizza once in a while. You don't have, it's just, your body can only take so much bad stuff in and process it out.
Yeah.
And so, hey, if you have a pizza one night, but then go back to what you're doing, your body will process that out. You'll be fine. But when you're eating all this other stuff and it just compounds and compounds, that's when you get loaded down.
Yeah. That's where I think...
And I'm not a nutritionalist, by the way, so don't think. It's just my
You're
personal
damn sure a
experience.
nutritionist. I am too. We know what we eat and works good for our bodies. That makes us knowledgeable on the subject. I don't think you have to take everything you know and put into your conscious and how you see the world from some expert. Most of the time, you can learn so much from just, like you said, ask yourself, be alone, try to learn, spend some time just asking those questions of yourself. And then Blue says some things here. I'm like, cool, I really agree with that. That kind of, I experience it. If I eat high quality food and spend a little time fasting, man, I am in such better mental shape, physical shape, all these things. I had another little question in there I wanted to ask, and now I've lost it. I got off chasing this. Well, whatever. We'll just go on to the next thing.
We can go off some tangents.
Yeah, sure. How do you put up with just sitting there for so long to make this art? Tell me a little more about your art, because that's the thing I could never do. And first of all, that's part of the talent, I think, is having the focus and the patience to wait on the final product.
Sure. With me, I even do things a little bit different than most artists are doing. As well, I draw more with an inner feeling. Instead of relying on my outward senses. But like I say, it's always come natural for me. And then my dad would help me when I was little and really tell me to pay attention, be aware of this. Look how that bit is on that horse. Look what style of bit it is. Get your tack right. All that.
You're already way past
look
the
at
shade
the
and these kind of things.
But for me, if I don't create, it's more of creating, as opposed to art. If I don't have that feeling of creating something, I start getting cagey in a couple days.
Really?
I have to. There's very seldom that I don't draw now. Which before I never really had an opportunity, or I didn't take the opportunity to really focus on my craft. I would just do it because I was used to doing it, but I never really had a direction with it.
Yeah.
And so these past couple of years, I'm like, this is what I really want to do. This is what I should have been doing all along. It's okay that I haven't, but I'm going to start now.
Yeah. Now, are you able to make a living doing that?
I have been. I'm one of the very few. Now, I'm not, we're not going on tour and I'm not rolling in.
Yeah, you're not flying private jets everywhere.
Not flying. No, but I don't measure, when you say making a living, I measure it on happiness and joy versus a monetary value. Yes, there's people that make more than me with my art. There's people that make less than me with my art. I'm currently able to make a living with it, but as far as my personal happiness, getting to do what I love to do every day, and what's that meme? Create a living that you don't need a vacation from.
Yeah.
I'm a trillionaire when it comes to being happy and having inner peace and knowing this is my path. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And
you're content. Isn't that such a trick? It's such a trick. I don't know. Trick's the wrong word. There's such a value in finding that space to be content. And I know there's people in my life that look at me and like, why can Neil not get content? Like, because I'm kind of always like, just, well, I am content in that. It's like, I can't be happy, satisfied, content if I'm not pressing, you know. It's just like you said. You really get cagey if you hadn't done some creating in the last couple of days. Well, I start getting pretty cagey if I haven't. Maybe, and it's a kind of creating too. For me, it's creating. It's creating through business relationships, through generating value that then typically turns into monetary gain. So it's like everybody's got to play that game that turns them.
And you're providing a service. I mean, even with this podcast, you have folks on and you're providing knowledge that can potentially change another person's life by listening to it. You know, that's kind of happened with me also. Like, you know, some people, they're kind of just like searching for something and they can't quite find it, but then they hear someone else say it and they're like, and they have that aha moment. So I think when you get into that and you're doing a service for others, and that's what I think about this podcast. You know, maybe someone's listening to this right now and be like, you know what, I may work on my eating a little bit. I may cut out, you know, if they're benefiting from it, that's what it's all about. And the same way with my art, my primary goal can't be to make money or it'll fail. My primary goal is to do the best work that I can. And if people enjoy that work and it makes them happy and they want to hang it on their wall, then I'd provide a service for them. If I changed them in here and inside, if they get a feeling from it, that's my goal. Or put a smile on their face, you know, if they get and be like, man, I'm so happy I got to, you know, if I made someone happy, that's my payment. And then in return, that comes
money
back,
flows, but
it comes back to you. If you put something out in the universe that's honest, it's going to come back to you.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that.
Man, that gives me chill bumps just hearing you say that, because I don't know a more true thing. Anything you do that has real substance, value, service can't be done if money is the object. You know, it just doesn't come across. It's not the real feeling. The real truth is not inside the thing that you're offering. So I love it.
But you got to have faith. If you go that route, you have to have faith, because, you know, we all got to eat. You know, we got to make a living. We got bills to pay. So, you know, you got to sacrifice and know what you want out of life and everything like that. But at the end of the day, I feel in my heart that there's like just a bigger picture that, you know, there's a purpose for me doing this, and I need to do it, and I'm going to let whatever comes back to me comes back to me. And it's worked so far.
Yeah,
that's the thing. So that's why I keep doing it, man. I don't know what's going to happen next week or next month, but, you know, I've developed a following, and, you know, I'll create something, someone will like it, and so that's my opportunity to make another piece. And it's just snowballed like that for a couple years, and I just keep staying on that momentum.
How do you price your work? Like, to me, that's so hard. That, like, you have to do it in some way. Like, you can't not do it. But the way you think about it makes it hard probably to put a monetary value on it.
It is. That's the hardest part. That's where I need to get my wife more involved with that, so
Yeah,
I don't
sure.
even have to worry about it, because I'm the right brain and she's the left brain, and she's so good at that stuff. So, but when I started really focusing on this, and all my stuff is cowboy art, Western related. I wanted to do something affordable for like real cowboys and stuff. I've kind of developed a sort of cult following from like hardcore ranchers, cowboys, ropers, and they really seem to respond to my work that I do. And so I like to do a lot of smaller things that, they can take something home, and, they don't have to take out a loan just to buy a piece of art.
Yeah.
But I am expanding into larger pieces and stuff, and I'd like to do some more shows, but I've sort of just been kind of underground, just doing my thing all along, just keep my head down, draw something, someone buys it, so I draw something else, and it's just been that way, It's just weird.
It's awesome. Like, I think that can be encouraging to anybody who wants to do anything, that you just have to go. Like, just start putting it out there. I'll bet money Blue hasn't bought a bunch of advertisements here, there, or yonder, or spent a bunch of money getting people. You put the work out, somebody sees it, and it can just build that way.
I do zero advertising.
Yeah.
I do, which no offense to advertising companies or anything like that, but you're exactly right. If you you want to create something that'll sell itself.
Yeah.
I don't buy into the gimmick stuff or this and that. I just want it to be pure, honest. What I put down on paper. If you don't like it, that's cool. I mean, that's no problem. Like, art is.
How is that though? So you really see. I like that, the way you think about it too, and I think it's probably very genuine. Is this is in me? It has to come out. It's on the paper now. Like it or not, I didn't have a choice. I had to do it.
Right. Yeah.
So then you're not. If it never sells or somebody hates it, you've only done a thing you had to do anyway. So it doesn't really matter if people love it or not. It's a thing you had to do.
And going back to the roping thing in the metal game, I was so hard on myself comparing my artwork to others. The great Charlie Russell, Ed Boreen, Will James, Frederick Remington, all them late 1800s, early 1900s artists that was the greatest cowboy artist ever. I always compared to them, like, man, my work is, I got to get to their level. And then finally I'm just like, I'm not them. I'm me.
Yeah.
I have to do what I need to do.
Yeah.
Stop comparing. Well, I respect what they did, learn their techniques, but don't try to make it a competition, especially against artists that have been dead.
Right.
Like, that's not a good way to go through life, comparing yourself.
Yeah, you're never going to get a chance to have that competition. I mean,
right.
And that's kind of another truth I think about art. It's almost like it only gets super valuable after you're dead. So because it can't be created anymore. Like, what's out there is out there. It's done. There's no more coming. So the fact that you can do some now and have a following that's building, and I love that. It's such a loyal following too. When you build it like that, you're not tricking them with advertisements or anything. You've made a piece for somebody. They told a friend saw it. Hey, who did that? And,
Right.
So now all of a sudden, this word of mouth you've built your business on, it's almost unbreakable.
Sure. And, social media has a lot to do with that, because artists couldn't do that 20 years ago. Before, we were talking about that earlier. We we were in the era before cell phones growing up, and now with to be able to connect, people will buy my art from all over the country and sometimes overseas, and you never met them, never spoke to them before, never talked, but they see your stuff. Like, for artists, social media is the greatest thing ever invented if you use it for that means.
Yeah.
Because you literally have a free online gallery open to the entire world.
Yeah, that's so true.
And if you don't upload your work to it, no one's going to see it.
Yeah.
So,
are you worried about them stealing it?
No.
Yeah.
No. There's a lot of man, I'm on the fence.
What about AI?
I've been,
okay, never mind. Answer the first question. Are you worried about people stealing it?
I don't really worry about that. Like, I don't put watermarks on them. You know what? If someone pulls first of all, I'm going to know it's mine if someone does steal my stuff. Which I haven't really seen that yet, but if someone would pull it off and make prints, like, good for them. Maybe they got to make their house payment. I don't know. Maybe they need the money to do that. Or go make $1 million off of it. If you can make $1 million off my image, I should be able to make $1 million off my image.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to fault you just because you knew how to make money off my artwork and I don't. Right. So I look at it that way, really. If someone's going to take it and run with it, that tells me that I'm on the right direction. I'm like, well, hey, if they're able to make money on it, my art must be good.
Yeah. if they're wanting to steal it, it's got value, and that's
right. So it's kind of a measurement. Yeah. If no one wants to steal it, then maybe you better up your game a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think as you get more and more popular, that probably becomes a bigger problem. But I also think.
I don't do a lot of prints. All my stuff, virtually 99% of my stuff is just originals. So a person that collects my artwork, when they buy that original, that's the only one in existence. And that adds a lot of value to it also. I don't like to flood the market with a lot of just prints.
Yeah.
I'll kick out some every once in a while if I know a lot of people that would enjoy it and have an interest, then I'll do a run, but very few. So,
yeah. What about your mom? I'm sitting here thinking, we've heard about your dad. Tell me about your mom.
Mom, she's the one that runs the show. Yeah. Which mom and dad, they're both still around. But yeah, she's the one that's Dad was always the laid back one, just kind of go with the flow, did the art, the art and roping thing with him and stuff. But Mom was the one that was the pusher. She wanted to push you to your highest potential.
Isn't it awesome how in really good relationships, really good parenting scenarios, there's that kind of yin and yang, that kind of two sides of the coin. I think that's kind of cowboy perspective right there. I grew up with that similar thing, although my mom and dad weren't necessarily the same as your mom and dad. Like, I didn't have a particularly artistic parent that was kind of pushing me that way, but one of them was a little softer, one of them was a little harder, and that turned out to be really good for me. It helped me see the world from a couple different lenses.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of stuff that I would maybe wasn't too keen on her before, now I understand more, and I understand how that helped me develop as a person that I am today, but I didn't understand it then. And so sometimes when you think there's a negative, it's actually a positive in disguise if you're looking at it through the correct lens.
Yeah, that's so true.
Perspective and awareness is your greatest allies.
Yeah. And it takes time. You got to try to build that tool in your brain. It's the only place it can live. To, I don't know, hear this virtual snap that says timeout. All right, have you checked your perspective? Have you checked your awareness in this whatever mental thing you're going through? I feel cheated. I'm mad. I got screwed. Whatever, which is, I guess, the same thing as cheating. But whatever you got going in your mind that you know is not a good thought. It's not a good place to be. Got to develop that mental tool that says, snap, wait a second. Do you know everything about the situation? Are you approaching it from the perspective that is most valuable to you? Like, hey, even bad things can be great. I don't know. Do you know how you build that tool?
Well, first that's a good question.
Well, I'm saying that's why it's so hard. That's why you have to build it, because it's different for you. It's different for me. It's different for anybody listening. Like, you need the tool. I'm telling you, it'll be very valuable to you. But I can't tell you, like, if you want the 1, 2, 3 steps of how to get it, I can't give you that. That's the thing you have to.
I don't think there is a 1, 2, 3 step. I think it's a peak and valley and tunnels and paths splitting and
sure. You have to want it. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
You have to realize the value of it and want it. And then you got a chance. What about Joe Rogan? Do you listen to his podcast?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you said earlier when you're drawing, you spend quite a bit of time listening to.
Yes, so, when you're sitting, which I sort of had rooms set up for a studio, but I like drawing at the kitchen counter.
There you go.
That's where I feel most comfortable. Like, I don't like a fancy setup. I don't have, I feel like all that's a distraction. I just want to, sit down and create and draw. So my setup's pretty simple, but during that time, when you're drawing every day and you're sitting there, like, the hours can seem like days. So I thought to myself, I'm like, well, if I'm sitting here and I got all this, I'm devoting this time, like, why not learn something? Why not listen to different things? And different perspectives. And so that's how I started listening to podcasts, but I also I'll listen to lectures on quantum physics. I listen to a lot of philosophy and psychology. I like to learn how the mind works. I want to know why things are the way they are.
Sure.
And Dad, he would always, now that I'm thinking about it, he would always quote philosophers and stuff. He was into a little bit of that as well, and that rubbed off me. Like, how many people's parents will say something that Socrates or Plato said?
Yeah.
But I found out that studying philosophy and all that, there's so much universal truth that you can gain from those and start incorporating in your everyday life.
Yeah.
Joe's one of the few ones I listen to. I like listening to him because he brings in all genres of people. Yeah. And it's not necessarily people he agrees with and stuff, but he may have, scientists on one day, a comedian on the next. You never know. Yeah.
I love that. I like that about Joe's approach to podcasting. He's got a really deep access to people, which I'm impressed with. It's kind of one of the things that I see so much value in. It's just his access to people. I mean, you email somebody's agent or whoever you have to talk to say, I'd like to spend some time with this person and put some podcast episode together. Well, you say, I'm with the Cowboy perspective. Well, they give you a certain amount of attention. if you say, I'm with the Joe Rogan Experience, you get another amount of attention.
Sure.
And that's kind of fun for me too, is I'm like, that's partly what I'm trying to build. I'm trying to build that access because I want to share the access with others. Like, and then there's this whole other mental flip you can make that, why do you need the access? Because Blu Dornan has as much intelligence and foresight and wisdom as Matthew McConaughey. I'm just pulling names out of the air here.
He's a little better looking than me.
Well, maybe he's better looking. His voice is more recognizable. Like he's been put on the pedestal by the world. And I love Matthew. Like I like the way he thinks about stuff, or at least the way he projects he thinks about things. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know Matthew at all. I'm just basing off of what I've seen or heard of him on somebody's podcast or some social ad where he's talking about promoting his event where people can come and learn. I mean, I can learn from Matthew. I can learn from Blu. So some of that access isn't even necessary. If you draw a 50-mile circle around wherever you live, unless you're just in a really, really remote part of the world, there are valuable perspectives, insights in people in that circle that you can spend the rest of your life trying to get access to and never get it all done.
Very true.
So you don't have to be famous to be so smart, so valuable, so relevant to others. So there you go. I'm trying to build access for the big names, but I'm also I have a big appreciation and value for the guy that lives down the road in Stephenville that draws things that he just can't not draw. You know?
Right. And I'm sure every time you do one of these too, you learn something valuable with every different person that you have on.
I love the like you said, the broad scope from Blu to Clinton Anderson to Marcus Sheridan to Jay Sammet. Like these people are just some very different people. Not all of them are from the Western lifestyle, but I argue, well, they have a cowboy kind of way of doing things to have the life and success they have had. So tell me about keeping a little sheep alive.
Oh.
What does that take?
my poor little lamb. Yeah, that's another wormhole went down a few years ago. I started out with 4 sheep, I think, in 2019.
Now, what kind of sheep? Like
they're the hair sheep.
Dorpers.
No, they're like I call them Barbados. I think you pronounce it Barbado here.
Okay.
A lot in the painted desert crosses. But I had one when I was real little, and when I stopped roping in 2018 and 2019, my wife, she's an animal lover, and I'm like, we need something to eat the pasture down, so we got these 4 paint ewes, and then fast forward to now I think I was up to 70 here a couple weeks ago. Take care of, among other animals besides those, but I don't know why. It just makes sense that I have them. They're a lot of work, but I can't see myself not having them.
Yeah. Well, and you're representing what I see and what I think is a big, what I'm trying to come up with a word. It's a big gap we have to try to draw closer from urban communities and rural communities in what it means to raise animals and to eat meat and these kind of things. It's like we were just talking about, hey, you good to do the podcast in the morning? And you're like, oh yeah, I didn't get some of the things I wanted to get done to bring, but I've been nursing this lamb, trying to keep this lamb alive. So you know what that's like. I know what that's like. So many people don't. They don't have any clue what that's really like. So what happened? You just got one born premature, or got bit by a snake, or what?
Actually, now, which we're still, the jury's still out, but I think she might have injured her back. So she's still, at this moment, she's still got a fighting chance. So we'll see. She's strong. I wish I had her spirit, actually, to persevere. But I think she might have just got another one, maybe got her in the stall or something by accident. I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
If they can't get up, move, and eat, that's usually a sure sign of the Grim Reaper is around the corner.
Yeah. But, you'll see some animals. Like, you'll see some stuff. I would, if I was a bet man, I would have lost a lot of money on them sheep, because some of them you'd think that they weren't going to make it in the next hour, and now they're like some of my strongest ones.
Yeah.
You just never know. It's all about the heart. Like, same people and animals about the same. It's how much heart you have in you.
Yeah. That's so true. How much heart do you have? What about your wife? Tell me about her. We're exchanging stories about our wives a little bit prior to getting on here. How my wife gives me such awesome, great advice. She does. And then I choose not to listen, know? And then you were kind of like, wow, that's kind of the same thing for me. So why do we do that?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, first of all, that was the single best decision of all time my entire life was marrying her. She's been so supportive of even what I'm doing. I mean, I'm going to marry an artist and a shepherd. Like, same way with your parents. Like, how many kids are going to tell their parents, I'm going to be a shepherd and an artist when I grow up? And they're, good luck with that, son.
Yeah, right.
But
it's not one of those things.
I'm doing it.
It's not one of those things you perceive your parents going to town and telling all their friends about.
No, but which I didn't kind of when we've been together now a few years, but kind of transgressed into this. But she's been supportive the whole time, and I think if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't be. I'd probably just still be working an office job or a factory job or something like that, and just doing my art when I can every once in a while. But she's like, you need to do this, and to have a spouse like that's supportive is worth more than all the money in the world.
What's her name?
Tiffany.
Hey, Tiffany. High five, Tiffany. Way to be a supporter. And anybody listening, I think if you're in a relationship, or even if it's a brother, sister, parent, like, don't underestimate the value of your support. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with a better word, but it's simply support.
Definitely. And well, like we were talking a little earlier, sometimes we don't see it. Our ego gets in the way of it. And I didn't, like I said, we would knock heads, before on a few things, and then I come to realize, I'm like, I'm not looking at it's me.
Yeah.
The problem's me. And whenever you can say the problem is me, things start to change.
Yeah.
But we get along so great, and she's actually trains agility dogs and takes them to competitions all over Texas, and has been the AKC Nationals and AKC Invitationals and stuff. So she's got a lot of passion with animals and training as well.
Yeah. What's one of these philosophers that you've really liked? I'm curious. Do you know Jordan? Have you ever listened to any of Jordan Peterson's work?
I have, yeah. Which a lot of my philosophers, unfortunately, most of the people I listen to are dead.
Well, I don't
need
know
to
that
listen
that's
to
unfortunate.
Contemporary too. But Jordan, there seems to be this trend going, man, where I don't know, people. kind of like my path and your path and kind of being on this journey. There's other people like him. It seems like we're all kind of getting on the same page about just getting out of the fog of everyday life and like learning to appreciate what's really going on and what's really happening. But I have listened to him. But I also I'll listen to Eastern philosophy, the Tibetan monks, Buddhism, European philosophy, just anything. Native American philosophy. I read a lot of Native American books. And you come to find out when you really start reading things and the pieces start falling together is that the world was a lot different than what you thought it was. Like, it seems like there's kind of I don't know, things are just going different than how they used to.
Yeah. What do you think there's a God?
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah.
A lot of what spiritually for me comes from inside. I can find, some people can find God in a building, in a church. Others can find and see God in nature, in the trees and the leaves and stuff. And I'm one of them people that I see my perspective's different than most, and I think you can get spoken to from different points of view. And so I don't really sign on. To set the record straight, I don't have an affiliation with anything as far as like across the board. Like, right. I'm not a member. I'm like a lone wolf. Like, I'm me. I beat to my own drum. I will listen to everyone's concepts and views and stuff. I'm open to everything because I'm willing to learn. I want to learn because you don't know when you're going to find something that's beneficial to you.
You never know when you might realize, I was wrong.
Like, for me, I really think that there's so much bigger things going on than just getting up, going to work, coming home, repeat, and then die. Like, I think this is just the beginning of something. And so I want to build on that.
When I said, do you believe in God? You said absolutely 100%. So that tells me we align at least on that, right? I'm a born-again Christian. I believe the Bible sets forth a lot of great ways to think about living and being and how to model my life after Jesus. And it works for me. I love it. God works in my life. I feel him. He's a part of it. He's a part of these conversations. I think you feel the same God, but you don't maybe make the connection in the same way.
Sure.
That's how I perceive this.
Right. And I don't connect in everyday life the same way that 99% and people's not going to connect with what I do. And I respect that. But the main thing, in like what you're saying, and I agree 1,000% with what you just said. I think sometimes people have to be careful on their interpretations of things.
Yeah.
And that's where I like to gather a broad spectrum of ideas and thoughts. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't have a positive outcome, it's probably the wrong path.
Yeah.
If the end result, if your math equation is this plus this doesn't equal love and understanding in the end, it's probably a little skewed.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, I feel so lucky to be sitting here with you and just have a chance to ask you about stuff, because I know you're not just coming up with your position on stuff off a whim, like just, I heard somebody said that on the internet, that's what I believe now. Like, you're running it through a filter of truth in your life and your experience. So how do you feel about what we're going through with transgender, this pronoun usage, and how our culture seems to be pressing us all to be tolerant of things that seem to me counter to truth? How about that question, Blue?
Boy, you're putting me on the hot seat now.
Well, have you even considered it? Do you think about it? Is it something that you even bother messing with?
You know, it's cyclical. Used to think about it a lot. Sometimes I don't think about it at all. Sometimes I'll think about it some. I'm trying to think of the best way.
Oh,
to
no,
say
there's
it.
like, I like just put, I'm nervous as hell anytime somebody wants to talk about that, because I am a guy who loves everybody. That's part of what Jesus calls me to be. I love homosexuals, transgender people. I don't even know. Whoever relates with being a cat. What, okay, cool. I love you. But I got to be willing and able to say, but that don't make sense. Like,
right.
it doesn't, I'm not trying to tell you you can't live your life that way, but I'm saying, like, it's been like this in the world for too many years for that to be all of a sudden discovered as this is how we are.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that kind of goes back where I was talking before. Like, just even this country in the last couple hundred years is a brand new concept. Like, there's civilizations that have existed for thousands and thousands and thousands of years before us. And I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense to me. I'll put it this way. Native Americans or Indians or whatever, Yaquis, all them, South America, even the tribes, Africa, any indigenous culture has been able to function and survive untouched, before we come over and stuff. They didn't have to worry about currency. They didn't have to worry about shelter. They didn't have to worry about food. They didn't have to worry about anything. It seems like their culture was set up pretty darn good to take care of everyone in their tribe.
Yeah.
And I don't know, when you compare that to how crazy things are now, you kind of wonder, are we on the right track with this?
Yeah, sure.
But then at the same time, I mean, you can't, like, you kind of have to ride that wave. Like, this is the game we've been put in the play, so you got to play it.
Right.
Like, we don't live like that anymore. You couldn't survive like that was then. This is now.
Yep.
So how do we survive? How do we play this game of life, moving forward?
This is why I like us talking, because it's making me think about it. And you always are trying to make sure your words come out right here, because the truth is, I have friends, people I care about, and when I said I love, I mean, like, I guess there's a different kind of love. Like, I love a certain 5 to 15 people in my life who are just very important to me. They know I love them. I know they love me. I don't know how you get a much bigger group of people that you love that way. but I have appreciation for and love in a human respect kind of way for everybody.
Sure.
I've got people who have very different viewpoints on sexuality, religion, and these kind of things in my life that I care very much about. And I don't want to say something here that just is totally insensitive to them, right? But I don't know any other way to talk about it without taking that risk, So I kind of have to take the risk of that to ever even be able to search through my own thoughts around it.
Right.
I hope people listening can understand. Like, we all got to, you don't be so afraid of stepping on a toe that you don't say, "Wait, time out. Wait, this doesn't make sense to me." Run that by me again, because it's not making sense.
I think now that I'm thinking about it, so there's a lot of the 20th century and stuff. There's been so much focus on materialism, material things, and we are essentially made of material too. But there's an interesting saying that I've listened to a lot. Actually, I heard it on podcasts, but how does it go? I am not a human being having a spiritual experience. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And for the longest time in my life, I thought that I was the human being. I looked at myself as just what this is here. Yeah. What you see, what you can see with your five senses. But now I feel that, and especially when you get into the quantum physics and all that, and where you break matter down to where there's nothing but energy, vibration, and frequency, that is what we are. Yeah. I mean, we're electromagnetic light beings, pretty much. That's our soul. That's the spirits inside of us. And so when you get too bogged down on this physical matter, that's when the stuff starts getting squirrely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that can end up, so like I say, I'm trying to live my life and go on my path now, knowing that it goes beyond this.
Yeah.
And I don't want to regret focusing too much on this. We're meant to wear these bodies, but we're also meant to shed these bodies. So honestly, it's not that important if I'm male or female, because I'm not going to be wearing this for another 30-something years.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to be wearing this forever.
Oh, man, that's brilliant, Blue. So, I never really heard it put like that.
Take whatever all I said before, this is kind of what I was trying to get narrowed down to.
Yeah, you bet.
But, you get caught up in the news and this and that, and that can just steer. You can get so sidetracked on stuff.
Yeah. Well, somebody listening could say, "Oh, that's a bunch of foo-foo." Now Blue's gone up into energy and light beings and this and that. Well, foo-foo or not, but it makes sense to me.
If you felt like I did every day and enjoyed life and appreciated things, like I get up, first thing I do when I walk outside to feed, I give thanks to everything around me.
Yeah. It's easy to have that gratitude.
Yes, gratitude. And so if this crazy way of thinking allows me to feel like this and I'm happy and joyous virtually almost every day of my life, I'm taking it.
Yeah, right. That's so right. I wanted to give Ed Milet a little shout out. He's a billionaire guy that does a podcast too, and it's super huge and very popular, and I listen to it. But he says stuff that makes so much sense. Like, his dad passed away. He said, I'm standing there looking at my dad. I'm having these emotional feelings. And it occurred to me, Dad's not here. That's just his old meat suit. You know? So why do I even care about his old meat suit? Because Dad's gone. Dad's doing something else now. Or he's here. I just can't interact with him because we've changed. He's made a transition to something different. Yes. But the old meat suit doesn't, well, I mean, I have some attachment to it, but not nearly as much as I did before. Understanding what you were talking about, just what you were talking about. Like, we're just kind of inhabitants. We're spirits having a human experience instead of humans having a spirit experience.
Well, you think of it too, like driving a vehicle. You know, if you were, like, this is off the wall, but like if you were born in a car and you drove a car your entire life, you would think that car was you. Yeah. Because you never were outside the car.
Yeah.
If you were stuck in that car, you know, it's just a vehicle for experiences.
Oh, man, I love it. See, I'm so glad I asked the question. Even I'm scared of asking the question because, you know, it could hurt somebody, and I don't want to do that.
Could you imagine some calf ropers talking about this behind the chute, waiting on slack?
that ain't going to happen. I mean, it's more about what's the best bar in town, who's the good-looking girl these days. I mean, or, wow, that guy's horse is really working. Wonder what he's up to there, or what calf did you draw? There's so much other conversation that is kind of good for that instance, but it's not what you need for a happy life.
You know, and this totally cycles back around to what we were originally talking about when I asked you if you're still roping and you don't rope anymore. But you didn't seem like you were unhappy or miserable. You're happy with what you're doing now moving forward. And the same way with me, I see so many guys like they're just trying to do it, trying to force themselves, you know, older guys, but they don't seem happy doing it.
Yeah.
And then there's others that do. And, you know, roping was I was obsessed with it, just like Dad. Did it as much as I could, as long as I could, but that was my life then, and this is my life moving forward. So it's all about, like, focusing less on the material side of it. Like, you know, we could do that. When our bodies worked, we could rope. But our minds are still looking for that next thing.
That's right. Well, I think that's a great place to just call it done. I mean, I've enjoyed it. Like, there's so much good stuff there from just a couple of guys. Like, we're not super special in any way. We just sat here and shared some time. So I hope people listening enjoyed the time they shared with us, and they may do it 20 years from now. That's the cool thing about podcasting. We're putting this time together right now while we're in the meat suits and having the experience. But 20 years from now, somebody else is going to get a chance to access this time we shared together and to use it for whatever benefit they might find. That, to me, is really cool. So I'm super appreciative for you spending the time, coming over. Thanks for the print. Thanks for the great vibration or great attitude you put out in the world, because it goes out there, it jumps on somebody else, and they have a chance to use it through your art, through your just attitude.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you inviting me on, and you know, I'm going to take something away from this too, and all I can do is just speak my truth, and 2 years in the making, and here I am.
Yeah, that's right. That's patience too. Like, everybody in life, you got to have a certain amount of patience. Like, okay, cool, that's not supposed to happen today. Let me just be okay with waiting. Like, I didn't have a lot of patience in rodeo. I wanted the championship now. And if I didn't get it, well, then that's where my mental problems came from. I wasn't getting it now when I thought I should get it. The patience would have done so much good for me. And I had parents tell me, just be patient. I didn't listen. I mean, we all live that truth. We choose not to listen to those loved ones closest to us telling us really valuable stuff. So don't be stubborn in that way either.
Well, it's the whole way. It's the whole main purpose that we're here riding on this ball is it's supposed to be a learning experience. Sometimes you got to learn hard. Sometimes you got to learn easy.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Cowboy Perspective with Blu Dornan, and I encourage you, if you did, tell somebody. If you didn't, tell me. If you did like it, come back next time, because I don't know who it's going to be exactly, but we'll be talking with somebody that's going to have another perspective. You might go away and be super valuable to you.